The morning sun had just begun to rise over Fort Jackson military base when the security guards noticed something unusual. A woman was walking slowly toward the main gate. Her clothes were torn and dirty. Her hair was messy and uncombed. She carried a small backpack that looked like it had seen better days. The guards exchanged glances with each other. This was not normal. Private James Anderson was the first to approach her. He had been working at the gate for 2 years and had seen many things, but this woman looked different. She walked with purpose, even though her appearance suggested she had nowhere to go. Her shoes were worn out, and her face was covered with dirt. Yet there was something in her eyes that made James pause. The woman stopped at the gate and looked directly at James. She did not say anything at first. She just stood there, breathing heavily as if she had walked a long distance. James noticed that despite her appearance, she stood straight. There was dignity in the way she carried herself. This was not someone who had given up on life. Other guards gathered around. They whispered to each other, wondering what to do. Should they turn her away? Should they call the police? The base had strict security protocols. No unauthorized person could enter without proper identification and clearance. This woman clearly did not have either. Sergeant Miller, the senior guard on duty, stepped forward. He was a tough man with 30 years of military experience. He had dealt with all kinds of situations at the gate. Protesters, confused civilians, even people with mental health issues. But something about this woman made him hesitate before speaking. The woman finally opened her mouth to speak. Her voice was quiet but clear. She asked if she could speak to General Marcus Thompson. The guards looked at each other in surprise. How did this homeless woman know the general's name? General Thompson was one of the most respected officers on the base. He was in charge of training operations and rarely met with civilians. Sergeant Miller shook his head. He explained that the general was a busy man and could not meet with everyone who showed up at the gate. The woman nodded slowly, as if she expected this answer. But then she said something that made everyone freeze. She said she had served in the military. She said she had fought in Iraq. She said she knew the general personally. The guards did not believe her at first. Many people claimed to be veterans when they wanted something from the base. But the woman reached into her backpack and pulled out a military dog tag. It was old and scratched, but it was real. Sergeant Miller took it carefully and read the name. His face changed. He looked at the woman again, this time with different eyes. He picked up his phone and made a call that would change everything inside the base headquarters. General Marcus Thompson was reviewing reports in his office. He had meetings scheduled all morning. Budget reviews, training assessments, personnel evaluations. It was going to be a long day. His assistant knocked on the door and entered with a worried expression. The assistant told the general that there was an urgent call from the front gate. The general frowned. Urgent calls from the gate usually meant security threats or emergencies. He picked up the phone, expecting to hear about a problem. Instead, Sergeant Miller's voice was strange, uncertain, almost emotional. The sergeant explained the situation. A woman at the gate claimed to know the general. She looked homeless but had a military dog tag. The sergeant read the name on the tag slowly and clearly. General Thompson's face went pale. He dropped the papers he was holding. His hands started to shake. Without saying another word, the general stood up and rushed out of his office. His assistant called after him, asking what was wrong, but he did not answer. He practically ran down the hallway, past surprised soldiers who had never seen their commanding officer move so fast. He burst through the front doors of the headquarters building and headed straight for the gate. At the gate, the woman was sitting on a bench. The guards had given her water and were keeping their distance. They did not know what to think. She sipped the water slowly, staring at the ground. She looked exhausted, as if every bone in her body was tired. When General Thompson arrived, he was breathing hard. He stopped a few feet away from the woman. For a moment, he just stared at her. Then his eyes filled with tears. The guards had never seen the general cry before. They did not know what was happening, but they knew it was something important. The general walked slowly toward the woman. He knelt down in front of her, so they were at eye level. His voice cracked when he spoke. He said her name. Captain Sarah Mitchell. The woman looked up at him. her eyes also filled with tears. She tried to smile, but it came out as more of a grimace. The general asked what had happened to her. Where had she been? Why did she look like this? The woman's story began to pour out. 5 years ago, she had left the military after her service in Iraq. She had returned home to find that her husband had left her. Her family had turned their backs on her. She suffered from post-traumatic stress disorder, but she refused to admit it. She thought she could handle everything on her own. Things got worse quickly. She lost her job because of her mood swings and nightmares. She could not pay her rent. She ended up on the streets. She moved from city to city, sleeping in shelters and under bridges. She was too proud to ask for help, too ashamed to reach out to her old military friends. General Thompson listened to every word. His heart broke as he heard the story of what had happened to Captain Mitchell. This was a woman he had served with in Iraq. She had saved his life during an ambush. She had pulled him out of a burning vehicle while under enemy fire. She was a hero. And somehow, the system had failed her. The general helped Captain Mitchell to her feet. He told the guards to open the gate. He personally escorted her into the base. Other soldiers saw them walking together and stopped to stare. The general did not care what anyone thought. He was focused only on helping his old friend. He took her to the base medical center first. The doctors examined her and found that she was malnourished and dehydrated. She had several untreated infections. Her mental health was also in a critical state. The doctors admitted her immediately for treatment, while Captain Mitchell was being treated. General Thompson made phone calls. He contacted the Veterans Affairs Office. He spoke to social workers and psychiatrists. He reached out to veteran support organizations. He was determined to help Captain Mitchell get back on her feet. Over the next few days, the general visited Captain Mitchell every day in the medical center. He brought her books and magazines. He talked to her about their time in Iraq, reminded her of the brave things she had done. Slowly, her spirit began to return. The fog in her eyes started to clear. Captain Mitchell told the general that she had tried to commit suicide twice in the past year. She had felt so hopeless and alone. She thought nobody cared whether she lived or died. But something inside her had kept pushing her to survive. A small voice that told her to keep going. That voice had brought her to the base that morning. The general told her that she was not alone anymore. He promised that he would make sure she got all the help she needed. He also told her something else. He had never forgotten what she did for him in Iraq. He owed her his life. Now he had a chance to repay that debt. News of Captain Mitchell's situation began to spread around the base. Soldiers who heard the story were shocked and moved. Many of them had never thought about what happened to veterans after they left the service. They began to organize fundraisers and support efforts. The base community rallied around Captain Mitchell. A local news reporter heard about the story and wanted to do a feature. At first, Captain Mitchell refused. She was embarrassed about her situation. But General Thompson convinced her that sharing her story could help other veterans who were struggling. It could raise awareness about the challenges that many former soldiers face. Captain Mitchell agreed to the interview. When the story aired on television, it touched hearts across the country. People were amazed by her bravery in Iraq and heartbroken by what had happened to her afterward. Donations poured in from all over. Veteran organizations reached out to offer support. The attention also brought something unexpected. Captain Mitchell's sister saw the news report. The two women had not spoken in 5 years. The sister had assumed that Captain Mitchell did not want contact with the family. She had no idea her sister had been homeless and suffering. The sister drove to the base immediately. When the two women saw each other, they both broke down crying. Years of hurt and misunderstanding melted away in that moment. The sister apologized for not reaching out. Captain Mitchell apologized for pushing everyone away. They promised to rebuild their relationship with medical treatment, therapy, and support from friends and family. Captain Mitchell began to heal. The physical recovery was faster than the emotional one. The nightmares and anxiety did not disappear overnight, but with proper help. She learned to manage her PTSD. She attended group therapy sessions with other veterans who understood what she was going through. General Thompson helped Captain Mitchell find permanent housing. The base had programs for veterans in need, and he made sure she was enrolled in all of them. She received disability benefits that she should have been getting all along. She also started working part-time at the base, helping other veterans navigate the system. Months passed and Captain Mitchell transformed. Her physical health improved dramatically. She gained weight and her skin cleared up. She started exercising again and taking pride in her appearance. More importantly, her mental health stabilized. The darkness that had consumed her for so long began to lift. One day, General Thompson asked Captain Mitchell if she would be willing to speak to soldiers about her experience. He thought it was important for active duty service members to understand the challenges that veterans face. Captain Mitchell was nervous, but she agreed. She spoke to a group of 200 soldiers in the base auditorium. She told them about her military service and the pride she felt wearing the uniform. Then she told them about the difficult transition back to civilian life. She described the isolation and despair she felt. She did not hold back any details. The soldiers listened in complete silence. Many of them had tears in their eyes. After Captain Mitchell finished speaking, the auditorium erupted in applause. Soldiers stood and clapped for several minutes. Some came up to her afterward to thank her for her honesty and to ask how they could help other veterans. Captain Mitchell's speech was recorded and shared widely within the military community. It became required viewing for soldiers preparing to leave the service. Her story helped change how the military approached veteran support and transition services. General Thompson watched with pride as Captain Mitchell rebuilt her life. He had always known she was strong. Now the whole world could see it too. But he also felt anger at the system that had let her fall through the cracks. He became an advocate for improving veteran services and mental health support. The general used his position to push for policy changes. He testified before Congress about the need for better veteran care. He shared Captain Mitchell's story and the stories of many other veterans who had struggled after leaving the service. His passionate advocacy helped secure more funding for veteran programs. Captain Mitchell also became an advocate. She joined veteran organizations and helped create peer support networks. She knew from personal experience that many veterans were too proud or ashamed to ask for help. She made it her mission to reach out to those veterans and let them know they were not alone. She started a nonprofit organization called No Soldier Left Behind. The organization focused on finding homeless veterans and connecting them with resources. Captain Mitchell and her team would go to homeless encampments and shelters looking for veterans who needed help. They provided immediate assistance, like food and clothing, then helped veterans access longer-term support. The organization grew quickly. Volunteers from the military and civilian communities joined the effort. Businesses donated money and supplies. Government agencies partnered with the nonprofit to streamline services. Within 2 years, the organization had helped hundreds of veterans get off the streets. Captain Mitchell never forgot where she came from. Even as her life improved, she remained humble and focused on helping others. She often said that walking onto that military base was the hardest and best decision she ever made. It took all her courage to face her past and ask for help. 5 years after that morning at the gate, a special ceremony was held at Fort Jackson. The base was dedicating a new veteran support center. The building would provide counseling, job training, housing assistance, and other services for veterans in need. It was named the Sarah Mitchell Veteran Resource Center. Captain Mitchell stood at the podium during the dedication ceremony. She was surrounded by General Thompson, her sister, and dozens of veterans whose lives she had touched. She wore a blue dress and smiled genuinely. She looked nothing like the broken woman who had walked onto the base 5 years earlier. In her speech, Captain Mitchell thanked everyone who had helped her. She especially thanked General Thompson for seeing past her appearance and recognizing the person inside. She talked about the importance of taking care of veterans and ensuring that no one falls through the cracks. She reminded everyone that behind every homeless person is a story, and that story deserves to be heard. General Thompson also spoke at the ceremony. He said that Captain Mitchell had saved his life twice. Once in Iraq when she pulled him from a burning vehicle, and once again by teaching him the true meaning of service and sacrifice. He said that her courage in facing her struggles had inspired an entire military community to do better. After the ceremony, Captain Mitchell walked through the new center. She looked at the comfortable counseling rooms, the job training computers, the resource library. She thought about all the veterans who would be helped in this building. She thought about how different her life might have been if this center had existed when she first struggled. As she stood there, a young veteran approached her nervously. He was recently discharged and having trouble adjusting to civilian life. He had heard Captain Mitchell's story and wanted her advice. She sat down with him and talked for over an hour. She listened to his fears and shared her experiences. She gave him hope that things could get better. This became a regular part of Captain Mitchell's life. She met with struggling veterans almost every day. She helped them navigate the system and find resources. She reminded them that asking for help was not weakness but strength. She became a beacon of hope for countless people. Looking back at that morning when she walked onto the military base, Captain Mitchell often wondered what would have happened if she had not found the courage to take that step. Would she still be on the streets? Would she even be alive? She did not know. But she was grateful every day that she had made that choice. Her story spread far beyond Fort Jackson. It was covered in national news outlets and featured in documentaries about veteran issues. She was invited to speak at military bases and veteran events across the country. Everywhere she went, her message was the same. Veterans deserve support, and it is never too late to ask for help. General Thompson retired from the military 3 years after that morning at the gate. At his retirement ceremony, he said that helping Captain Mitchell was one of the proudest moments of his career. He joined the board of her nonprofit organization and continued working to support veterans. The friendship between them remained strong. Captain Mitchell's sister also became involved in veteran advocacy. The experience of almost losing her sister had changed her perspective on many things. She volunteered regularly at the Resource Center and helped organize fundraising events. The two sisters grew closer than they had ever been. Today, Captain Sarah Mitchell lives in a comfortable apartment near Fort Jackson. She has a steady job coordinating veteran services at the Resource Center that bears her name. She is in a good place mentally and physically. She still attends therapy regularly and manages her PTSD, but she has learned to live with it rather than be controlled by it. Every morning, she drives past the gate where she walked onto the base that day. She remembers the scared, broken woman she was then, and she feels grateful for the person she has become. Her journey from the streets to stability was not easy, but it was possible because people cared enough to help. Captain Mitchell's story reminds us that everyone deserves a second chance, that appearances can be deceiving, that the person who looks homeless might be a hero who simply needs a helping hand, and that the greatest service we can provide is to look after those who have looked after us.